This year's summer event, well, it didn't really feel like a summer vacation, honestly. I can't really talk about 1.6 because I started playing the game in the second half of that update, so I missed the summer event, but in 2.8 we were sent to the Golden Apple Archipelago on vacation, so a gorgeous place in the middle of the sea, while in 3.8 we were sent still on vacation in another gorgeous place that felt like a summer resort. In both cases we were there specifically to go on vacation and we ended up saving the world. This year, we were basically forcibly sent to another world that we needed to save, so there was no vacation involved at all. This summer event felt more like an Archon Quest, which is why I liked it as much as the other summer events, so yeah, I'm not complaining. Anyway, as always, this is a theory video. I will use information available in the game, but my theories and conclusions are not to be considered the official lore of the game, unless I got something right and it's confirmed in a later update of the game itself. With that being said, before starting the video, I just wanted to share the ominous feeling that this summer event gave me, so I hope you all already know what's under the Whispering Isle. Seeing the Wind-Blessed Harpastum from the 1.6 summer event, the Night Raven statue from the 2.8 summer event, and the Choo-Choo card from the 3.8 summer event gave me a sort of nostalgic feeling, but in a sad way, as if this is going to be the last summer event. It's like they wanted us to remember about the past ones, almost as if they were saying goodbye. I might be wrong, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm slightly afraid of version 5.8 right now. Well, I think it's now time to start the video, so grab some ink and let's dive into the world of Simulanka. Simulanka was very special because it went through the history of the nations we've visited so far. For example, the Forest of Blessings is a clear reference to Sumeru. When the tavern closed because it was missing the ink, the citizens started suffering from the fading disorder that caused them to lose color, memories, and strength, and it also affected the land itself. The tavern represents Irminsul, and the missing ink was its corruption, so the fading disorder is both Eleazar and Withering. It's no coincidence that the forest fairy is Nilu, a character from Sumeru that usually dresses as Nabumalikata, a Sili, so a candle fairy that created Hvarena, which contrasted the Abyss powers. Constellation Metropole, on the other hand, represents both Fontaine and Mondstadt. It's an elevated town surrounded by water like both capital cities. It's full of clockwork mechanisms and it's inhabited by toy people who later realized that they were not real people, just like Fontaine, and the king happened to be Navia, a character from Fontaine. Plus it has a massive statue connected to the sky and the stars in the highest section, just like Venti's statue, the gateway to Celestia. Also, the people are destined to receive the freedom to shape their own destiny, which is Venti's ideal as the Anemo Archon. Then there's the Broken Sea, which is slightly tricky to figure out. There are three main sections of this area. The mines that the people overmined, causing the dragon to go berserk, which represents Liyue, specifically the chasm. The village behind the waterfall inside that domain, where the people dug so much they ended up in another page of the book, which I think represents Caria. And the Whispering Isle that we're gonna talk about later in a dedicated section because you can clearly guess that there's a whole theory waiting for you there. When it comes to Inazuma, the only nation I haven't mentioned so far, I guess it's barely represented by the Kingdom of Breezes and Bells. There are these bluish trees that give Inazuma vibes. Then the princess who couldn't fulfill her calling and confined herself in the Cave of Eerie Murmurs but also sealed her whole kingdom, which could be A, not being able to save Makoto and confining herself inside the Muso Ishin, while sealing Inazuma off. But there's also this whole thing about the unfulfilled callings causing people to lose their ambitions and themselves entirely, which sounds like the Vision Hunt decree minus the hunt aspect of it, and the people going crazy without their visions. Now, every summer event so far has given us hints about events that will happen in an unspecified future update of the game. As before, I don't know much about the first summer event, but in 2.8, Mona's Mirage introduced us to the idea that everyone has a predetermined path, that the sky and the stars record people's life events, and that if a person's star deviates from its path, everything will go bad for them, which is very similar to what we saw in Simulanka this year. In version 3.8 instead, we were told one too many times that the world had been flipped upside down, plus there's also the still unexplained reason behind the Oceanids fearing for their lives because of Furina. In 4.8 instead, the future quest but also the main topic of the entire summer event was Durin. In short, Anya Anders' daughter decided to add a new character in her story and named him Durin, even though Barbeloth told her that giving him that name would have doomed him to live the same life of his Teyvat counterpart. Anders' daughter though wanted to give Durin a second chance. She wanted his story to have a happy ending, because Durin was in reality not an evil dragon, so she decided to challenge fate, well, Simulanka's fate at least. This, by the way, means that Anders' daughter was alive before and died after the Cataclysm, as well as Rhinedottir became a member of the Hexen Circle when Karya was still standing. Anyway, Barbeloth was right. Simulanka Durin was quote-unquote abandoned by his creator, which means that Anders' daughter died of old age. The people didn't understand him, so they began to fear and chase him away, especially because he didn't realize that his body and powers were accidentally destroying the world. And by the way, before moving on, because I know what you're thinking, Rhinedottir is not dead. We don't really know what happened to her after she got the heart on Aberius, but we do know that she, mysteriously, has only some moments of lucidity, so that may be the reason why she abandoned both Durin and Albedo. Back to the story, the three witches/goddesses also introduced a new prophecy that spoke of a hero that would have saved the world. This hero didn't listen to what the people wanted, he didn't defeat the dragon, instead he tried to understand him, because they shared a similar life story, and eventually, with the help of his companions, he blessed and saved them, allowing him to live among the people and repent for his actions, so Anders' daughter was actually able to defy fate and give Durin the happy ending he deserved. Before moving on to the reason why they talked about Durin in the first place, there's something I need to highlight. In my 4.7 analysis video, I analyzed the reason why Lumine is the only one who calls the Traveler by his real name, Aether, while everybody calls him Traveler, Paimon included, despite the fact that she heard Lumine calling him Aether. I theorized that names, like in many anime, may have a deeper meaning, some sort of power that not only define the identity of a person, but their whole existence in the world. Considering that Aether is not recognized by Irminsul, this could be the reason why no one can remember or learn his name, so they just call him Traveler without even realizing how unnatural that is. With the 4.8 summer event, we kinda got a confirmation about this. As Barbeloth said, the moment Anders' daughter named the dragon Durin, he was doomed to go through the same life experiences of his Teyvat counterpart. This means that a name in Teyvat, as I thought, is not just a means to identify a person, it carries their whole fate, reason why the Traveler who has a pseudo-constellation and not a real one is not part of Teyvat. He can't be fully recognized, neither by fate nor by the people. Now, why was this quest about Durin? Well, Scaramouche gave us the answer in the last quest. Durin is going to come back to life, which could be a problem considering he is almost as big as the entire Dragonspine area, but Scaramouche and Mini Durin will play a vital role in stopping him. As for what may happen, I can only think of 3 potential scenarios. The best outcome is that nothing bad will happen. Durin was a good dragon, he simply didn't realize that his movements were so destructive, and he even thanked the Valin and Barbatos for stopping him. The kinda bad outcome is that Durin won't remember what happened in the past, much like every other reincarnation of a dragon that was missing parts of their memories. In that case, he will probably do what he did before, he will try to befriend the people, ended up destroying everything and being chased away by the frightened population. The worst case scenario instead is that he will only remember about the people attacking him and the Valin and Barbatos defeating him, so he will be out for vengeance. In all 3 cases, Scaramouche and Mini Durin will stop him and save him, but he will still have a body that constantly creates a destructive fog, which needs to be fixed. As in Simulanka, Scaramouche, Mini Durin, but also Albedo and who knows, maybe even Venti, which could mean that this might be Carmen Day Act 2, and above all, the Traveler will bless him. And let's all remember that Ether can purify the Abyss, so his blessing will be the most important one, so Durin will finally be able to fulfill the promise he made to his mother. When will this happen? Well, I suppose it's gonna be not too long before Snezhnaya, so maybe this is gonna be 5.8? A nice world-saving vacation on the mountains? We need to talk about one last aspect of this quest. Rhinedottir didn't create Durin. This is something I already thought about because of Elinas, who told us he was floating alone in the cosmic darkness when he heard Rhinedottir's voice, which is almost the same as in the Festering Desire, which talks about Durin being an unborn life at the edge of the universal darkness. What Rhinedottir actually did was giving them a life and a body that would allow them to live in Teyvat, which is actually similar to what Egeria did for her Oceanids. Although how Rhinedottir did that is kinda weird because she told Durin to indwell her body, and we're talking about two monsters as big as nations, but let's just ignore that. Still, since Simulanka Durin and Teyvat Durin share the same life story, then the dark foggy place where he was living before he came to the world should be the Abyss. And if Durin represents unborn lives, unfulfilled wishes and tragic dreams, then the Abyss may contain what was supposed to be created, but was ultimately discarded. Lastly, both Durins have this Abyss power that destroys everything it touches, but is that what it actually does? Simulanka Durin didn't really destroy things, it reverted everything to primordial blocks. So could it be that the Abyss represents the origins and creation power of Teyvat, the necessary half of the microcosm that allows the world to exist? Could it be that the monsters of the Abyss are indeed what primordial life looked like? Moving on to the major topic of the 4.8 summer event, we have to talk about the fate of Teyvat. In the last quest, we met Mona, who told us that the fate of Simulanka is directly based on that of Teyvat. It's basically a mirror image of the world, and that they both have a starscape, which I guess is the technical name for the fate sky and the star system. As such, the reason why we experienced the previous Archon quests in Simulanka, it's because the two worlds share a similar and equally predetermined fate. Remus probably got to the closest explanation to how fate works, considering the constellation Metropole is a giant music box and the stars are its notes. People have free will when it comes to trivial decisions, but the life-altering ones are fixed, and if someone tries to defy them, like Remus, that same fate will still happen anyway. The only difference between Teyvat and Simulanka lies in the people's awareness. In Teyvat, people believe to be in charge of their own destiny, while in Simulanka they are aware that fate is predetermined and they are completely fine with it. Plus, if they deviate from their fixed path, the gift of the Goddess of Prophecy will stop time and allow them to rewind the events so that they can pick the right choice. This time power, though, according to the prophecy the goddess gave to the people, will have to be given back to her, so the people will be allowed to freely shape their own future. The people of Simulanka, unlike those of Teyvat, are also aware of their creator goddesses, Anders' daughter, Alice, and Barbeloth. Basically, Alice liked the story Anders' daughter was writing, she got Barbeloth involved, and they created this mirror world with their magic. So Anders' daughter wrote the people's stories, Barbeloth created the stars to give them fate, and Alice created the physical world and beings. Since Simulanka, as we said, mirrors Teyvat, this also means that Teyvat should have three creator deities or entities, which we know it has, the Shades. Of course, the Shades are four, but one, Phanes, created the microcosm, and both Teyvat and Simulanka are inside of it, so he doesn't count toward the creation of the actual world. And yes, I do believe Phanes to be one of the Shades and not the primordial one. Anyway, Omen described the three goddesses of Simulanka in such a specific way that we can basically figure out which shade they represent. The goddess of creation presides over matter and magic, she created the mountains and rivers and the living beings. I think that the cubes in the sky were proof enough of this, but this goddess represents Sasti. the one shade that can take, move, and release objects and living beings, as we saw in the first ever cutscene of the game. The goddess of prophecy has dominion over the stars and fate itself. She made the sky spin and the earth move. Considering that Barbelov's gift is related to time, this shade should be Istaroth. This also means that she is the one that created the starscape, so what allows fate to work, which could also mean that she created the laws of Teyvat. Lastly, the goddess of fate reigns over all treasured tales and dearest wishes. She gave the people feelings of love and hate, but also showed them the meaning of death and hope. This shade is, well, she's still unknown. We know the names of 3 out of 4 shades, so Phanes, Istaroth, and Sasti's name that I won't name since it's a leak from the beta version, so I'd like to respect those who somehow managed to avoid learning that name. Anyway, considering that the Simulanka counterpart is Ander's daughter, in this case fate is intended as the actual stories of the people, their decisions, their actions. Now, the similarities between the goddesses and the shades are not over. Sasti seems to live outside of Teyvat, in the real Celestia where the twin met her, so outside the gate we used to enter Teyvat when we opened the game. Similarly, Alice is the only one who isn't really present in Simulanka. There's neither a statue nor a place dedicated to her. Istaroth instead appeared multiple times in the history of Teyvat. She's in Dragonspine, the giant clock on the mural, she helped the people of Enkanomiya, and she helped Makoto during the Cataclysm. Curiously, Barbeloth built a giant statue at the top of Constellation Metropole that feels a lot like Venti's statue in Mondstadt, so maybe my theory that Istaroth and Barbados are sharing one body and when one is asleep the other is in control may not be so absurd after all. The last goddess, Ander's daughter, has 3 statues on the Whispering Isle, that is obviously the Simulanka counterpart of the floating island of Celestia, and this is especially interesting because in the manga, when Vanessa asked Venti about Celestia, he recalled the image of 3 black figures. So here's my theory. There are 4 shades, Phanes is the universe, Sasti is space, Istaroth is time, and the last one is fate. Using Remus's analogy, we could say that Phanes created the theater, Sasti built the harp, Istaroth attached the strings, and Fate wrote the composition that the people will perform. This last shade of Fate though is composed, we could say, by 3 entities, so since we're talking about Fate, she may represent past, present and future, or maybe birth, life and death of every single person. So she is based on the Moirai, Clotho, Lachesis and Atropos, 3 beings that usually are considered as one, the personifications of fate. But that's not all. There was a very interesting side quest called Towards the Lighthouse or Far Away, in which we helped the Noir fix the lighthouse he guards because the venturers, the people who went to explore the other worlds, need that light to be able to come back home. So we basically took the light and we obviously decided to find a way to hang it in the sky. This led us to the Whispering Isle to seek help or make a wish to the Goddess of Fate, and in the end, with her power, the light went into the sky and lo and behold, it turned into the moon, and nobody even mentioned it. So after thinking about it for a few days, I came up with a theory that actually connects some dots that I put down in my previous videos. The moon in Simulanka has a specific purpose, that is to guide the venturers back home, but we also know that Teyvat used to have 3 moons, of which only one is still alive. Now Teyvat has seen the arrival of 4 Descenders. The first ones are the Heavenly Principles, the second one is, I think, the Heir from the Battle Pass, the third one was turned into the Gnosis, and the fourth one is the Traveler. Every time a Descender arrived, a world-class catastrophe happened. The Traveler and the Cataclysm, the third one and the Archon War, the second one and the Descent of the Celestial Nails, and out of exclusion, the first one should have arrived when the world was capsized because of the second who came. We also know that the first Descender, the Heavenly Principles, are responsible for the fate of the world, and that they are most likely one single being because Nahida refers to them as such. This theory goes against everything I said so far about the Heavenly Principles, but could it be that they are simply the shade of fate? She probably descended onto Teyvat after the second who came took over the microcosm, so as someone who wrote the fate of the world, she definitely has the power to challenge fate just like every other descender. Because she was involved with the creation of the world, she perfectly knew how to get to Teyvat, but once she got there, she most likely created 3 moons to guide other higher beings to Teyvat so that they could save the world from the invaders. The second descender arrived, and I still think it's Simulanka by the way. All hell broke loose and he probably died without being able to do anything, so 1 moon died as well. Then the third descender arrived, and whatever it did was so bad that he was turned into the Gnosis, so he died as well, and another moon died. Lastly, Aether arrived. Lumine caused the cataclysm, but Aether is still alive. He can still save the world, there's still hope, and that may be the reason why the third moon hasn't died yet. Realistically, we were never told when the moon died, or if they died at the same time or in different moments. We just know that they were in the sky when the people were starting to come out of their caves, so after the world got capsized, because the people of Tsurumi Island talk about Dianas, the plural form of the name of the goddess of the moon, and then we know that 2 of them are dead. Talking about the people of Tsurumi Island though, they also define the moons as trivia, so as Hecate, which is the Greek goddess of the night, magic and the moon, who is usually depicted either like Shippa the Harmony, so with 3 faces, or as 3 separate goddesses counted as one single being, like what seems to be the case for the Shade of Fate on Celestia. Now, we usually eagerly await the summer events because they hint at the Archon Quests of the new nation that is going to be released in the following update. Again, I can't speak about version 1.6, but 2.8 and 3.8 literally gave away almost the entire plot of the Archon Quests. When it comes to Natlan, this year's summer event was kinda cryptic. The main quest didn't really give us many hints, apart from Simulanka representing the 5 nations we've visited so far, which is similar to Natlan being split into 6 sections, each representing an element just like the nations of Teyvat, and that's probably because Natlan is the forge of Teyvat, so it worked as a blueprint for the other nations, except for Snezhnaya. And of course, it's also not a coincidence that the most evident areas of Simulanka represented Sumeru, Fontaine and Liyue, so Dendro, Hydro and Geo, the elements of the 3 Saurians we've been introduced to so far. Because in 5.0 we won't be able to explore the entire map, they will most likely release the mines, so Geo, the place of the people of the springs, Hydro, and the forest, Dendro, again the elements of the 3 Saurians we've seen so far, while the other 3 areas and tribes will probably be released in 5.1, like the quantum looking tree that we also see behind Capitano, who, as every Harbinger, comes out in the second update. Also, I think we won't be getting our Pyro element until Lil Buddy, why do we keep letting Paimon pick names, grows up and evolves into a custom Saurian like Kachina's Tepetli Saurian. Since they're segments of the Fire Dragon, we may need their recognition before the statues infuse us with Pyro this time, reason why Aether is still Hydro in the latest teaser. Anyway, I think that most of the hints about Natlan can be actually found in the side quests of Simulanka. 3 side quests were about a princess who was looking for a prophesized guardian who, after completing a set of trials to be recognized by an ancient relic, would save the kingdom and give it a future. If the princess failed to fulfill this calling or ambition, she would disappear together with their kingdom, just like her predecessors. In another area instead, there's a competition that's been going on for ages, and the winner's calling is to save the princess, except they never knew which princess, so every champion failed to fulfill their calling, lost confidence in their abilities, retired and were forgotten. This year's champion also lost his confidence, but his friends managed to show him his worth, and he eventually won the competition for the 7th time, so we brought him to the princess who actually doesn't need saving at all. This princess is also unique compared to her predecessors. She doesn't want to wait for a guardian that never came, so she decided to complete the trials and be recognized as a guardian herself. Despite that, the relic didn't recognize her, so we all went to the Cave of Eerie Murmurs, where we found the previous princesses and champions who kept waiting for so long that they reverted back to pages of a book. When Simmé, the princess, and Forobert, the champion, decided to take fate into their hands together instead of waiting, the relic recognized them both as guardians, so they fulfilled their calling and saved or gave a future to the kingdom. The other relevant side quest is Narration Footnotes, the funniest, best voice acted side quest I've ever seen in this game. I just loved every second of it. There were 4 main characters. The narrator, one of the first beings created in Simulanka, but also one of the few people who know that they are characters of a fairy tale, and then 3 representatives of the 3 great clans of Constellation Metropole: Capei, the red one from the clan of Strength and Valor, Boborano, the yellow one from the clan of Wisdom, and Albizi, the blue one from the clan of Empathy. Each of these 3 clans has a specific version of the origins of Constellation Metropole and how they dealt with the dragon of old that was causing troubles for them. The clan of Strength claims that they defeated it by force, the clan of Wisdom tricked them with a riddle, and the clan of Empathy used their growth serum to make the dragon understand what it meant to be so small that they couldn't even be seen. In the end, we used the power to rewind time to obtain the blueprint, or the original script of the world, to figure out which clan defeated the dragon, but it turns out that Anders' daughter wrote 3 different versions of the story. Her cat made a mess and she just went with all 3 of them. The whole quest though had been planned by the narrator, because he wanted them to understand that they are characters of a story, but also because he wanted to understand whether they can be considered as real people even if they are part of a fake world. With these summaries over, let me tell you what I think they tell us about the Natlan Archon Quests. Natlan was once ruled by an ancient dragon, the Fire Dragon, but it never really considered the humans and caused problems to them, and maybe that was a big misunderstanding as well. 3 native clans, and considering the colors of the toy people, they're the Geo, Hydro and Pyro clans, so maybe the first Pyro Archon was also involved in this, fought, tricked and stole the dragon's powers. Then they sealed it away and split it into 6 inferior species, the Saurians, to prevent it from ever coming back to life. This may be the reason why the people live in harmony with the Saurians, but an ancient dragon wouldn't be welcomed in Natlan, as Nebilet told us. Because this happened a long time ago, the 3 clans are now trying to figure out which of their version of the history of Natlan is the right one, but it could also be a plan set in motion by a very ancient being, probably Simulanka, who knows the truth of Teyvat and wants the people to know about it too. Considering the elements of the clans, I can't help but thinking about how Ashdaha was sealed by John Lee because he lost his mind, so his wisdom, while Fossilor appealed to Nevelet's empathy toward the people of Fontaine, which would leave the Fire Dragon being fought and constantly chased away. As for the 3 versions of the story, could it be that the Shade of Fate, who is split into 3 beings, came up with 3 stories, one for the Fire Dragon, one for the Water Dragon and one for the Geo Dragon, but something happened and they got mixed up in Natlan before the other nation had been created? Anyway, as I just said, a long time has passed and maybe history got mixed up because the nation has also fallen multiple times. I would say that it may have happened 3 times, as many as the Samsara cycles that Dynasty Senkoit's Order discovered. Each kingdom had a pyro god who was an Archon just in name. They never fully ascended to Archonhood, they never received the Gnosis because, who knows, maybe the first and only real Pyro Archon used the Gnosis to seal herself with the dragon to fully prevent its resurrection. So these Archon wannabes have been waiting for a hero from another world that would have been recognized as the savior by the Ball of Fire, so maybe the original Archon, to receive the power, the Gnosis, to save the kingdom and give it a future, reason why they also instituted the yearly tournament, the Ring of War, to find the strongest champion of the nation. These Archons may also have been the reason why the Shade of Fate created the 3 moons, so the hero could have been one of the Descenders, but they all failed and together with them did these Archons and their nations. In the end, the tournament went on for so long and without ever crowning this prophesized hero that the people simply stopped caring about it. They see it as a bother, they don't even try anymore. Fast forward to today, Mavica, just like Simmé, decided not to wait anymore. She chose to seize her own destiny and become the hero that would save the nation. On the other hand, the winner of this year's unique tournament will most likely going to be Capitano, who, despite his countless achievements, may have started to doubt himself, which would explain,
"Are you brave enough to compete?"
Capitano's doubts may end up driving him to help Mavica achieve her goal, so the moment they both agree to do whatever it takes to save the nation, that is to defy fate, the Ball of Fire, the ancient relic, will acknowledge them both as the heroes of Natlan. This could create a weird dual archon kinda thing that we've never seen before, and I would honestly like to see it. It would be something entirely new. This also means that, once again, the Traveler will only be there to witness the events, not to be part of the solution, but I think Mavica will fail in 5.2, because she deviated from her predetermined path, and as hinted by Barbelov's gift, time will be a rewound to the beginning of the tournament, and that's where the Traveler will finally play his part. The laws of Teyvat don't apply to the Traveler, who once again will be the only one who remembers what happened, so we will basically help Mavica do things all over again, but this time avoiding what went wrong the first time. Once fate has finally been defied and the nation is finally free, which could mean that the people may obtain true free will, by the way, Mavica will finally become a true Pyro Archon, so the resurrection theme from the title of the Archon Quest may refer to the original Archon inside the Ball of Fire, being resurrected inside Mavica, who will tell the Traveler a secret only she knows. This secret may have something to do with Esteroth, considering the time power, about the Shades in general, or maybe she's aware that Teyvat is just a massive dreamscape, or maybe she will tell us the truth about the visions, since we heard one too many times about these callings, so people's ambitions. As for the noses, I still think we will keep the Pyro one for a simple reason. If Capitano brings it back to the Tsaritsa, she would have all 7 noses, so we wouldn't spend 6 more updates exploring Natlan, we would go straight to Snezhnaya to at least figure out what she's planning. Will Capitano leave the Fatui? If the strongest of the Fatui ended up being the first one to actually defy the Tsaritsa, that would actually be cool. He also looks like a shadow under the helmet, so maybe he's trying to resurrect himself as well, and once he's back to life, he might want to leave the Fatui and live his newly found life. Well, we can't be sure of anything right now, but fret not. The 5.0 livestream is coming up actually really soon, which means that Natlan is finally really close. And that's it, I hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, and if you're interested in Genshin Impact or Star Rail Theory videos, consider subscribing. I honestly can't wait to see if and how much I correctly guessed about Natlan, but again, it won't be long now. I will see you again either with a Star Rail 2.4 theory video if there's something that needs to be analyzed, or with a potential new Natlan video, or maybe a Hex and Circle one that I wanna do, or directly after the 5.0 livestream. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, over and out.